Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. Anyone willing to watch today? I know we have a couple of streams going elsewhere. A couple of big names are streaming tonight, but I didn't really look to pick a time for this, and this needed to be said. So, today isn't going to be a good topic. We're definitely not going to like what we hear. It definitely breaks the heart to even know that this has happened. And it's a few days old now, but the evidence is coming out, and the path is pretty clear. So buckle your seatbelts. I want you to have a look at that little boy, and that's his dad, happy-go-lucky, and this is where the system has seriously failed him, because that little boy was blasted to pieces by his mother, who won sole custody of him despite numerous claims against her, despite all types of evidence proving she was very unstable, despite his father fighting for him for years, and despite even foster care, the people that were entrusted with him by the state pointing out very clearly that what they were doing was wrong. But again, we all know this. The system that is set up, whether it be for the family courts, CVS, Child Protective Services, Child Family Maintenance, whatever organization is around you, we all know that this organization is set up to trade children's lives for money. And if it destroys everyone else in the meantime, they don't care. But it has to come to an end. This little boy was shot 6 times at close range with a 12-gauge shotgun by his mother. When they picked her up, she still had brain matter in her hair, according to some reports. She tried disposing of the body and his car seat all over town, essentially. So, yeah, this is the state of our system, and as it states in my notes, it is all done for profits. We've traded this little boy's life for profits, and he's one of many. Hundreds of thousands of children are currently being exchanged for money. And it's not a sex trafficking ring, it's not a human trafficking ring. This is government funded, government endorsed, and government backed. One more reason to never want to lay eyes on a government official or trust them again. So tonight we're going to have Eric Zombro coming in to join us for a couple of details on what he knows about the family court system and how it works. And we're going to have Billy the Goat joining us for a more in-depth look at the psychological thinking behind people like this. Women that hate their children, will extort them for money, and in the end, really all they want to do is as much damage on the way out as they possibly can. So let's welcome Billy the Goat to the stream. Hello, Billy. How are you, sir?
Hello, Emperor Chris, and hello, everyone in the chat. Good evening.
So, not a great topic to pick, not a great story to go on. And unfortunately, it's one of many, like I stated. I don't know if you've heard all the details, but I do have a couple of news reports loaded up, ready to go, and to kind of go into the details of this individual.
I've caught pretty much most of what you said about that young boy there that you're showing the thumbnail of. Tragic, horrific, scary, and condolences, and heart goes out to the father. I'm not sure how he's doing.
He's destroyed. He's been fighting for this little boy for years, and he's absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how that feels. As a father,
Is it a single child?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Doesn't matter, Billy. One's too
What
much.
what happened? So I don't know if you said already, but just to update me, like, so what happened to the mother after her murder
Oh,
of killing, her son?
that lovely piece of shit. Oh, she was taken into custody
Hmm.
alive. Um, here's the report, if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see
That's
that. Well, on Monday,
yeah,
28-year-old
yep,
Thaler was charged with second-degree murder in Hennepin County. Was arrested by Oreo police early Saturday morning. Stopped the car. Went after after a blown out tire, according to the criminal complaint officer. Sorry, I'm muttering.
yeah.
Uh,
No, it's okay, buddy. I understand. I'm sorry I didn't get the report to you sooner through Discord. But I can play the news report. Unfortunately, they don't go into the details as to the absolute state she was found in, but this article will, and I will copy the article for anybody that would like to um, read it over themselves. And I'll try to drop it in the chat there. Hopefully that'll work. Yeah, good, good. But essentially, yeah, she mutilated this little boy.
hmm
With
Do we know if the boy has any medical
no,
uh,
no,
disabilities? Say,
no, no, none of that. He was just a happy, loving little boy who was put through the ringer because his father was being extorted and manipulated and used by this fucking CVS system or CVS. And the county essentially, well, it doesn't matter when they come on and say that, oh, sometimes we make mistakes. They really need to stop saying that because all they do is make mistakes. They are a mistake. So essentially, of
do
course, they're
we
trying to walk it back.
do we know if the mother has any history of mental illness
Of
or?
violence, crime, the works. I mean, look at this individual. This was
Right.
after she was picked up, right? And they washed her up. This is after she
She
took a
actually look,
6-year-old son and blew him to pieces.
yeah, she has a look of smugness.
Yeah,
She looks pleased.
yeah, yeah. The thing is, she went and did the whole court system thing and battled to keep this little boy away from his father, a loving father, for no reason, right? And it worked because vagina, right? Let's face it,
Yeah.
vagina won her the case, and state funded, right? Of course, all state funded. And this was just after she got him back. She just got him back like a few days ago. And this is what she wanted to do,
So if she was battling to keep the son away from the father,
right?
it sounds more like it's not because she wanted to have her son, like because she cares and loves for him. It's because she wants to punish and hurt the dad.
Absolutely.
Um, and so by killing her son, then that's kind of like the ultimate denial. Like you will never get your son or have access to him because obviously he's now dead, and not just dead but in pieces as well.
Yeah, mutilated. And when I sent Eric this report, it was the first thing out of his mouth. She didn't just want to murder him. She wanted to mutilate that body so literally nobody could even see him afterwards.
Yeah.
She
Um,
destroyed a little child's body out of simply spite, simply nothing
um,
but spite.
it wouldn't be out of the realms of impossibility, but let's say she was somehow like able to walk free. Um, she probably would also try to deny any kind of like burial or any like having an urn of ashes or any kind of closure in that sense as well.
Yep.
Just to be as much, to inflict as much pain and torture as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. These lives are destroyed because they have allowed vagina and profits to exchange children's blood. That's it. There's the exchange. We will sell children and fathers and in some cases mothers, absolutely down the river piece by piece for enough money. As long as there's money, there got to be money, right? And the worst part is this is not the only case from this week. I just found another one of two people that actually starved an 8-year-old girl to death.
I think
Starved her to death.
the money part of it um, is it adds like it sounds horrible, but it adds an incentive
Of course.
to what is already like there's already issues. There must be something kind of like fucked up in the head if you're even going to be like entertaining or going down that kind of path. The money kind of sweetens the deal.
Well,
Um,
that's just it. It gives them the incentive to start the extortion, right? And if things don't go their way, this is not the first case I've heard of where women have gone off the deep end simply because they were losing. They were losing their full control over the system, right? Or over the situation and the children. And when they were losing, they murdered the children.
yeah, yeah. Things escalate and ramp up, and it can happen, pretty quick. And to make it even more horrific or horrifying scenario, it doesn't necessarily have to be like an anger or frustration towards their partner. They could have lost a job, but then take it out on the partner, and then as an extension, it goes further and further. Or it could be like childhood, the woman's own childhood trauma or upbringing, which eventually has led to this kind of um, repeat of cycle or act of vengeance. I mean, from their point of view, like they, in their squirrel-minded kind of rationalizing way, in a sense, be like, if I murder my own children, then I can kind of cure my own illness,
Hmm.
or I can medicate, or I can get justice, or I was going to say justification for how or for what I had to go through. So it's like I'm killing my kid because deep down I wish I was killed when I was a kid.
Well,
It doesn't justify it, and
no,
it's
it
not.
doesn't justify it, and I can't justify the murder of any children, man. I just can't. But at the same time, most likely this woman herself was either a factor of the state, right? Which, along with how society basically puts out there that women can do no wrong, and they endorse it, and this kind of insane behavior. Um, this is the product right here. This is the
Yes,
end result.
I mean, if you got no value for life, obviously with her like none, because she doesn't value her own son, kind of thing. It shows you her moral compass, or her value structure or system.
Hmm.
But that comes from a sense of it initially develops from your own sense of self-esteem and self-worth. So not to give her an alibi or to show her any sympathy, but it shows you that she has no value for her own life. I mean, she doesn't care about the consequences, I'm sure, because she, from the article, it sounds like she went into custody with no real problem. She didn't scream like "I'm innocent" or something like that, or try to stitch someone else up.
Oh
So
no.
there's no sense of self-preservation there. She doesn't care what happens to her. So if she doesn't care about what happens to her, and this goes for anybody, if you don't really care what happens to yourself, then you're not really going to care what happens to other people. You can't have
Mhm.
compassion or empathy for someone else if you don't first have that for yourself, if that makes sense.
No, I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I mean at the same time, I have known women personally, right, who have traded their children, just abandoned them for a new fling. You know what I mean? And I've met those children when they were adults themselves, right? And
Yeah.
that psychological scarring of abandonment was
Yeah.
still with them, knowing
Well, this
that their
is okay.
mothers.
Yeah, yeah. That what you're saying there is actually a bit close to home for me. Um, I work because I'm not sure if I should really. I suspect because my ex partner wasn't really given enough attention. Now, when you don't give someone attention, it's almost like an abandonment. So it's like I'm not going to give you attention. So you're not important to me. You mean nothing to me. So from a child's point of view, they feel well. It's like neglect, but they feel abandoned. It's like, where's my mom and dad or whoever? Where's
Mhm.
my caregiver? They're not there.
Why didn't
They don't-
you love me, right?
Right. So it's like an
These
abandonment
children, yeah,
treatment. Yeah, and this is
you're
kind of like
abs
so the fear of abandonment for a lot of people, and I suspect this is partly why my ex and the mother of my child ultimately repeated that almost like a prophecy,
mhm,
and um, what do they call it when because of the fear of abandonment, they sort of instigate that fear. They actually make it come to fruition. Um, so quite often it's like they're so scared of being abandoned that I'm going to abandon you before you get the chance to abandon me to
yeah,
try to lessen the blow, the pain, the anxiety. So they're in control. So even though they cause their own abandonment, at least it's of their own doing. They're in control of that environment or situation. So I have a concern with my kid getting older
mhm,
that because mum essentially abandoned the child, I'm worried that my kid will have that same kind of like almost like a curse
yeah.
uh, going forward.
Well, it's funny you
But
should mention that, Billy, and about it being, like, passed on. I've met 2 specific people who had the almost the exact same, mother issue where she left the children with other family members or whoever, right?
yeah,
Uh, to go and run off with another man, not because the dad of these children were anywhere around, right? They cut ties with the father for some reason, beforehand, right? The woman gave up 3 kids to adoption because her and her partner at the time had a falling out, right? One was actually my brother. She put a kid up for adoption, and there was nothing he could do to stop it, right? And that's the way she wanted it. Her second, well, actually, it was her first husband, a good, clean cut guy, military man. They had 2 children together. As soon as the relationship broke down there, she put those 2 kids up for adoption, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. This this abandonment issue, especially for women, right? It seems to be a constant trend.
yeah, it's a
However,
big thing. Yeah,
however, the guy that I met who went through the exact same thing was the complete opposite. As soon as his kid was born, right, the mother became the primary enemy, and he turned on her like a fucking snake. You know what I mean? And anyone that came near that kid, he was super overprotective of. You know what I mean? Um, and it's a strange complex because I mean, I know that that couple is actually still together to this day, right? But you know how I've stated more than once that if my youngest boy's mom mentioned the family court, she's done right there, right?
yeah,
That's how he is. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Um,
He doesn't
although
try to sugarcoat anything.
although you mention it like it's almost like a total opposite, um, it's actually strikingly similar. The commonality there is this idea of control, and it's the control of, in this case, like a child. But so what unfortunately is being missed here is that the child is not allowed to be their own independent self. They're not allowed to individuate or have a separate life from the parent. So what that's saying is that the child is being treated as an extension of the parent.
Mhm.
So if they're an extension of the parent, that means the child isn't an individual of their own. There's no individualism there. They're enmeshed. Um, they're denied their own life essentially, which unfortunately makes murdering or stunting the development of the child, or stunting their individual life, like murder, give it cause it a cause of death, would be another part of that, or even being like a tyrant and overprotective and controlling to suffocate, is also kind of like it's like a living death in a way.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I would have to say that what the father does is more understandable. He's very
yeah, I mean,
protective, but at the
yeah,
same time, I'd rather he be overprotective than to do what these psychos do.
this
You
is
know what
where,
I
well,
mean?
this is why, like, quite often in life we have to strike that kind of balance. So yes, it might be well intended, and being overprotective does sound like kind of like a good, like, oh, obviously he cares because he's being overprotective, but it does come to a point where it's like, look, if you bubble wrap your kid, if you wrap your kid up in bubble wrap, to the point where they're suffocating, you pretty much are killing them, even though you might have the best of hearts and you mean well for them. Like, you gotta allow some level of, well, hopefully, in a more healthy dynamic, some level of vulnerability. I mean, I'm guilty of this as well. Like, I've got my kid, and I'm constantly worried and anxious, and most parents are about their kids. They might fall out a tree or something like that. Um, but at some point, it's healthier if the parent can kind of like sit back a little bit and allow the child to be hurt now and again, or to get a few bruises, or to be able to breathe and to live
Mhm.
their life freely from the parent. But we're going off a little bit from the subject matter. Um,
No,
so
it's
so
you're
what we're
not
saying,
wrong. You're not wrong here, buddy. I'm not saying you
it, it,
are.
it comes back to the element of control, and the fear of not having control.
I
So
don't think his comes from a place of control because I mean it's not that he doesn't let his kids, bump their knee or scrape their knee, and in fact they're actually out there right now. I mean the youngest is 18 years old, right? And it's not he has isolated them quite a bit, right? Like they were a bit naive when they went out into the real world because he protected them very sternly. It was more or less the reaction he had with other people, right? And I don't mean an insane reaction like the one case we know of where, like, this lady claims that any man that holds a little girl because she's a baby or anything is a pedophile. We're not talking that extreme, but he's been in and around these social workers before, right? And he has a deep conceited fear of them for a good fucking reason.
yeah, so
But he
survive.
also sorry, go ahead.
Well, you just said, like, the around social people, around like social workers, and has a fear of them. So we're looking at like a environmental, you know, you're looking, you got your eyeballs, you're looking out at the world, and what you
Mhm.
see around you is danger everywhere, and threats, and probably like running kind of scenarios in your head. So look at the fight or flight, uh, response to threat. And so imagine like a wounded animal in the corner, and it doesn't know if you're trying, if help is trying to actually help the animal, or is it trying to take it, so it kind of like lashes. Like a wounded animal is pretty dangerous.
Mhm.
uh, Most people probably already know anyway, because they don't recognize danger or threat properly. They can't assess it because of that survival, because of that anxiety and fear. And so danger, threat, survival, and the need to control the environment and the variables, they all kind of tie in together.
I understand where you're coming from there. I mean, on the other hand, because I have dealt with these people before, I know that they are a danger. I know that they
Yeah,
are a threat. It's been
yeah,
confirmed. We have this incident because of the people that were involved and the organizations that are backed by our federal dollar, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They
I mean,
are dangerous.
yeah, and I can relate also to some degree. Like I share the same kind of sentiments or philosophy, because especially in today's world, the amount of kind of like fuckwits you have around, like with you're supposed to be entrusting your kids in their care, like my kid's school, and she coming home and I'm more focused, which is wrong of me, to think like, so what kind of indoctrination have you been learning today?
Hmm.
And this is where we can slip up. Maybe this should be saved for later on in the conversation. But if we're constantly focusing on basically the negative, and um, it's almost like blame shifting in a way. Like, where is accountability? Who are we going to hold responsible? Who fucked our kids up? Kind of mentality. Then we're neglecting things we could that is within our control. Because what we're saying when we're saying like, look, the state has done this, the teachers have done that, uh, social care workers have done this. What we're doing is we're pointing fingers at things that are beyond our control, and
Hmm.
as a result, we sacrifice the things that are within our control.
Hmm. Well,
So,
and
so what we could do is like, okay, it's like, yes, I'm handing my kids to in my. I'll use my situation as an example. Like, yes, I'm handing my kids over to teachers, and I can't control what the teachers are saying. I have no idea what they're saying really. So what can I do to combat this? Do I complain about the teachers, or do I make sure I instill in my child the moral lessons that I hope teachers would be helping me with? So at least I'm giving my child, yes, she might be in a world of uh, dangers and threats around her, but at least I'm giving her things that she can use to help protect herself. So it's like I'm giving her self defense
mhm.
in a
uh,
way.
I'm gonna interrupt you for a second here, Billy, because I really want to get this posted up here, guys.
Go ahead.
This is the just a sec here. This is the GoFundMe page for the funeral arrangements for these folks and this father. I'm gonna drop a link here, and hopefully I can pin it because it's amazing that so many people have come together for them because to be honest with you, I mean, if we can't sort this shit out, and we are not going to sort it out playing their fucking games, then there's no hope for any of us. But this GoFundMe, as much as I don't support GoFundMe, they these are the people that will stand with us to ensure that this doesn't keep happening, because this can't keep happening, guys. This has to fucking end. And you know what? This could be the last stream I'm on, because I'm going to say things here tonight that is definitely going to fucking get somebody's attention. And if I don't get a strike or just get completely removed, well, I don't fucking care, because they need to be said. In my description in the bottom of the page for this stream tonight, I have a statement in the bottom, and I absolutely 100% mean it. There is no act that you can do, violence or otherwise, to end this situation and take apart this organization that trades these children's lives for money. There is nothing you can do that is violent or extreme enough. Do what you have to fucking do. That's all I'm going to say on that for right now. But if you guys do want to donate or can, please do. I'm sure the father and the family behind this would absolutely love your support. And you know what? To all the people that have, my hat is off to you. Um, sorry, Billy.
No,
Uh,
no, no. That's very important what you're saying there.
like I
What I
said,
was
guys,
saying obviously isn't going to help that gentleman really. I mean,
no.
it's like, in fact, like if he was listening right now, it'd probably upset him to hear, because obviously, prevention is uh, is what he would have hoped for, and what I'm talking about is not really. Um, going to
It's
be
hard to do, man. It's
a
hard to do. I'm
situation.
fighting it back right now, so I've been fighting it back since the start, but I'm gonna keep going as long as I can. If I do have to step out, I will pause and step out. So,
It's not an easy topic to be discussing. Pragmatically, the actions that we could take, like, would be things like, one, obviously, don't get yourself involved with a crazy bitch kind of thing,
mhm,
and then two, like, especially don't be having a child with that crazy bitch. Um, Long term, I mean, that's the sort of like the here and now uh, course of action. Uh, Long term, like, how can we kind of eradicate this from a societal problem? Will be the education and the sort of therapy of people, so that they don't go down this horrific kind of um, psychotic sort of mentality.
mhm. I don't know, Billy. I honestly don't know where it all lies, but I do know for one simple fact that these instigators that allow this stuff to happen, you know, because they profit from it, these people got to go. They got to
Yeah.
go.
I mean,
And
that's
like,
why it's like the education part of it. I mean, so if we look at this case study with this 28-year-old woman who's now in custody, I
mhm.
mean, we would have to sort of backtrack. Like, how did this woman come to be? Who brought her up? Who taught her these things? Who taught her that it was all right to do this? Who enabled her? And so now we're looking like most likely like a cross generational, not just like her parents, but probably like her grandparents and great grandparents and things like this. So
Yeah.
then it broadens the scope up to like, so culturally, where did we teach young women that it's okay to be like this, or where do
Um,
we teach them not to value life or their sense of self, and as a result, because you could argue that these bad behaviors, this abuse that they do to men, maybe not killing their children, but just any kind of form of abuse on the whole, is like a coping mechanism or strategy to deal with underlying problems.
well, Billy, I have to answer your question with another question. Where don't we instigate that kind of behavior? Where
That's,
isn't in society, from school to literally the TV shows that we watch? Where isn't it listed somewhere where it says that no matter what you do as a woman, you are right and everyone else is wrong, and if they're men, they're definitely wrong.
well,
And being a
yeah.
boss bitch and being the queen is all that matters. Where isn't that listed? Find
Well,
me a place.
exactly. That's a good point. And to emphasize it even more, if anything, we're actually doubling down, which is makes it more frightening.
100%. Because I mean, just like what's going on here, this is state funded. This child wasn't failed by the state. He was murdered by the state. All of these children that end up in this exact same situation were murdered by the state. The system that is put in place to essentially leave loopholes for corruption to fucking take hold, right? They are the cause of it. And
Yeah.
it hasn't changed in 45 fucking years. It's
You've
just
heard,
gotten worse.
yeah, you've heard the expression where it's like the children of today are kind of like sacrificed, or
Yeah.
even like children of tomorrow are sacrificed. You know, they're already being
Yeah.
they're going to have to carry the debt for uh, people's expenditure that they got right now.
Yeah.
But you know, when we say that kind of like they're being sacrificed, that's being said kind of lightly. It's like the children of tomorrow who aren't even born yet, in a metaphorical kind of way, are already being murdered.
Yeah. 63 million so far, isn't it?
Well,
More than all the world wars combined. I think it was 63 million
I
just in
don't
the
know.
West. Sorry, I might be to Western world
whatever
alone.
whatever the figure is, of take birth rate for example, like whatever today's current birth rate number is. I don't know what percentage of it would be, but there would be a percentage there where it's like, and it's horrific to sort of try and imagine the numbers, but they would be like the unborn dead.
It's got to come to an end,
to,
Billy.
to be
It's got to,
born just to be born just to die.
yeah,
and
just to be
uh,
murdered.
and not just, well, the thing is, it's not just to be murdered, but to be um, exploited, extracted from, to be used. It's very vile. It's pretty hard to wrap your head around it if you wanted to be dark about it. But to be
Yeah.
born, like, even animals are treated like, you got vegans who complain about the abuse of animals, but this is even far worse.
This is far worse. And this is not the worst that I've heard. I mean, yes, this really fucking hit the top of, like I said, it doesn't matter when you go into abusing and murdering children, you've already started at maximum with me, right? We're already at the max when it comes to how much you've set me off.
Mm.
However, I have heard, not even heard stories. My neighbor down the street, right? After living there for only 6 months, we found out that the reason the ambulance and police all showed up there one night was because the mother, right, found out her husband was sleeping with another woman and decapitated her two twin daughters and put their heads in the freezer for their father to find. Like, most likely, this wasn't a speedy process.
No,
You know what I mean?
that's making it more sickening. The mother probably thought it was being cute or something like
Yeah.
that.
And the worst part is Wisconsin is the absolute worst for this. This is actually, I believe, in Wisconsin, or it was started in Wisconsin. These
Oh,
It seems to be like a fucking a pit for fanticide or infanticide, however it's pronounced. Women that want to murder their children. It's fucking astronomical. It's got to be like more than everywhere else in the country combined. So this is even targeted down to like a geographic fucking state.
yeah. We had a case. I'm not sure how long ago. I mean, might have been like towards the end of last year. A woman stabbed her daughter to death, and her reason was because of poverty. So she was fearing not being able to, like, look after the child. So instead of allowing the child to go into custody or go over to the father, she decided to be selfish
Yeah,
and murder the child. She also then stabbed herself because she probably didn't want to be accountable.
yeah.
But unfortunately, she wasn't successful,
I
and she
believe
was
I heard about that one.
put into a mental institute instead of jail.
Yeah, and she'll get out in a couple years, say that she's found Jesus, and get to walk the streets free and fucking
Yeah.
clear.
So she's
Yeah,
given mental institution and then given support because obviously there must be something wrong with you. We need to help you. We need to
yeah,
help you to be a rehabilitated murderer.
yeah. Well, what about these poor innocent children? Like I said, I've stated, I believe it was last week here, or just this past weekend. These children are supposed to be the ones we protect the most, right?
Yeah.
The young and the innocent. These are children you're talking about, young and innocent. They don't come with any guilt. They're not born into this world, even if they're born out of sin or incest or whatever the case may be. This is not their fault. They hold no accountability for that because they can't be held accountable. They're the ones we're supposed to protect the hardest, yet they're the ones that we seem to be willing to sacrifice the easiest.
I think one of the factors, and I want to kind of try, like, you're talking about, like, a child gets murdered or or something severe, you know, then maybe people start taking notice. But just I mean, that's like an extreme event to happen for it to be noticed. But if we look at just more subtle child abuse or neglect, in some ways, that is just as bad as the extreme version because it's still doing harm. It's still damaging. So,
Mhm.
like, look at the sort of indoctrination that they're teaching to children. All right, yes, these children might be alive, they might grow up into adults or whatever, but that kind of damage in in a psychological way is just as bad as you're killing the child within. So, like, you know, like take cuties for example, or sexualizing children, or or grooming them into some sort of like gang cultures and things like this, or just
Promoting it.
subtle things. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know,
They
whatever.
promote this stuff.
It all kind of contributes and should be accountable for as well.
Yeah.
Well, you're right about one thing, Billy. Psychological damage can be just as devastating as physical damage.
Yeah. So the point I'm trying to make is like just because you get children who might not get murdered or killed doesn't mean that the parenting is off the hook,
No.
or the parent is you know like innocent in that regard.
Yeah.
They should still be accountable.
And welcome, Eric Zombro. Hopefully, you got your stuff
Yeah,
sorted out
yeah,
there.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, it's all
I
good, buddy. All good.
had to reboot everything, Wi-Fi and phone and everything. Sorry.
No, it's all good. No, and you're right, guys. Like the psychological damage. I mean, my ex-wife is pulling that card, right? The only reason that she's not allowing me to see these children is so she can do psychological harm to me and them. Um,
yeah,
you've stated it before many times, Billy, that women are the weaker sex. So generally, they don't go for physical harm. They go for the psychological stuff
yeah.
because
Well,
that's easy for them.
what I just said is a bit like a double-edged sword. It can be dangerous because imagine like you've got someone who's a bit abusive. They're doing the psychological abuse, for example, and then they just heard me say like they need to. It's not that much different than murder. So they can see how they might do a leap of logic then and be like, well, if I'm psychologically abusing them, then I might as well physically kill them. What's the difference?
For them, there isn't one.
Well, that's the thing, and maybe that's in part why it can be kind of easier for them to do because they got such a disconnect where it's like, yeah, um, you know, I might,
Well,
I might,
it's a disconnect, but it also puts them in minimal risk for physical damage.
Yeah, yeah, they don't want a physical consequence, right?
yeah, hide the
Because that,
evidence.
yeah, this fucking human piece of garbage right here. I don't know where she's being held, right, or anything, but this woman, what was the kind of treatment you said she should get, Eric? Go ahead, don't hold back. What was the treatment you said she should get in jail?
I said she should be raped repeatedly by Bertha and beaten to an inch of her life at least 2 to 3 times a month.
And
At
that's
least,
still too good.
yes.
Still too good.
A quick death is too good for her.
Yes. And you know what? I fully agree. And I promote that wholeheartedly.
Oh,
But
and believe me, if she was in New York, I don't know how they are in Minnesota, but if she was in New York, the the guys that locked her up and the COs would let it be known what she did.
yeah, they would parade her through the jail saying, here's this child murderer. And
Yes.
that's what she is. But again, this is a product of the system. This is what they made. The situation is created and instigated by them. If this woman had been given an actual fucking fair family court hearing, she wouldn't have had custody of that boy. His father would have. And he'd still be smiling and laughing and fishing today with his dad. Right?
Right.
But this is the system. This is what they instigate. This is what they want. They want your children's blood They want the financial backing of taking that blood, and then they want to wash their hands at the end saying, "Oh, sometimes we make mistakes." No, they are absolutely the mistake.
But it's
All of
not
it.
sometimes, as you said, Chris. There's numerous, and you can go to every state and find a story like this, more than one story like
More
this,
than one. You can find
in
them in every
every state,
city. Every
every
city.
city, every state, every
Yes.
county,
Yes. And
Yeah,
enough's enough.
single one.
yeah. And I
Enough's
wouldn't be
enough.
surprised if while all this is going down, she will still have the audacity to somehow like blame the husband.
Of
Oh,
course,
of course. Well, it wasn't her husband, it was her boyfriend,
boyfriend. Yeah,
baby daddy. But they stated from the get-go, this has been going on for years, guys, for years. This court case, this family court case with that loving dad and this psychopathic, deranged lunatic criminal mother has been going on for years.
yeah. But
And
you
they have,
see, she gets a court-appointed attorney because she has the kid, and he
yeah,
has to pay. And
yes,
you
but
know he's paying court fees and everything. So it behooves them to prolong it.
yes,
Remember that.
and the thing is, why would they favor for him when it doesn't benefit them? There's a reason there's like 9,000 fucking social working programs for women and not one for men in the US or Canada. Not one. There is not one that's for fucking single dads, but there's 9,000 for single moms.
That's right.
9 fucking thousand plus. And now think of all these fucking children. Just do a Google search. Here, fuck it, I'll do it for you. Here's a Google search. I'm right here. Just give me like 2 seconds. Children that were murdered by their parents. And this list is fucking endless of innocent victims. Innocent. Most of them all state indoctrinated or state controlled. And they're all dead because the state wanted to make a buck. Their lives are all on the state's fucking hands. You know what I mean? And the majority of cases were all done by mothers. So if mothers are the potential murderers, why the fuck do you have mothers having sole custody so often? Where's the logic there? You know what I mean?
No,
Where's the logic?
it's tragic. And as I said, it behooves them to drag it out for as long as they can to keep getting the court fees, the lawyer fees, and even when you send checks for child support and you send it to family services and then they send it to the mother, they get a cut 1 or 2%. So I mean, like I said, it behooves them to keep the kids in the system. It behooves
Yeah,
them to keep people paying in.
yeah. And
It's a
CVS,
yep, it's a giant Ponzi scheme. At least in New York, it's a
it's
giant Ponzi
everywhere.
scheme.
Everywhere.
Yes,
We don't have to even lock it down by geographics. It's everywhere. They know that they are all on the government's dime and it's all about the numbers. How many fucking kids we can get into the system, how many dads we can get on the hook for child support, how many mothers we can get on one of these 9,000 plus programs. And they're paid for every fucking one of them. Children for cash. That's all this is. This is government endorsed and supported
murder.
human trafficking,
Yeah.
Yes.
child human trafficking
I mean, it
on
sounds
top of
ruthless.
it.
You can see like the economic sense that they're trying to work with.
Yeah.
Like you've got the breadwinner, so obviously he's going to be a good source of fees and expenses
Yeah.
paying into the system,
Yeah.
and then the woman as well that they're capitalizing, obviously generating a lot of services, which in turn brings in more revenue as well.
Yeah. It's all about extracting fucking cash.
Yeah, or
They don't give
economic.
the fact that it's what's the old saying where if you have to say you're this, then you're definitely not that. You know what I mean? Like if you have to basically say you're the king, you are no king. You know what I mean?
Oh
That
yeah.
old saying, right? These people say that it's for the best interest of the children because they know it isn't for the best interest of any child out there. It is not for the best interest of any child. I don't care how bad the father is. You know what? Most fathers are not that bad, even at their worst.
Well, yeah, the children get it the worst off, even compared to like what happens to the men or what happens to the women. Um, Now the government sort of steps back and be like, "Hey, we're here to assist," but they're at the top of this Ponzi scheme.
They absolutely are.
It's
Of
like
course.
it's inverted, so the children get the raw end of the deal there, and they're the ones that are paying the most, really. Even though, like, not financially, they're being used. Um, but
They're hostages.
Yeah. Yeah,
in
they
this
are.
economic kind of balance, like if both men and women were feeding like money earners, then the government's not going to get any money out of it. So they need someone on the other side that, like, a dependent or is in need of so-called services, so they can kind of maneuver themselves in between. Likewise, if both men and women were dependent on services, then there's no one around feeding the system.
Mhm.
So there needs to be that kind of divide where you keep the men separate from the women. One side brings in the money, and the other side is like the generator of wealth in another way by having them create institutions of service, like, you know, uh,
Well, even if you just look at the system, how it's stacked right now, you know something is unfair when 90% of the time it goes in favor of one way.
Yeah.
Just on an analytical analysis, you can't say it's not corrupt just by the statistical anomaly of 90% custody being awarded to mothers. I mean, there's something wrong there.
Well, I
That
mean,
that's just wrong.
I've
It
told
can't
you,
it
Eric.
can't be that high.
I've told you, Eric, that I've stated to the fucking judge in my one court hearing that according to their numbers, not mine, theirs, a father is just as a good father that is capable of taking care of his children are just as rare as unicorn sightings.
Exactly. So
That's
it's already a predetermined thing before you even go to court. Then that
yeah,
it's just it, it, it's ridiculous. As
be-
Pop says, it's a feminist sentencing hearing.
yeah,
You're
and
just going, yeah,
just like
the,
Billy said, it's all about who you can extract the money from, right?
well,
Where are you going to get the most of your payout?
the women are the point of access.
Yeah,
correct.
because they're easily influenced for one, right? But if somebody told you, no matter what you do, like I stated before, if somebody told you that no matter what you do, you're going to come out smelling like a fucking rose and we got your back, we will fucking absolutely destroy him if that's what you want. Just say the word. I mean, why wouldn't they use it? Why
Of
wouldn't they
course not.
fucking sign up for that fucking
Of course.
programs?
But you see, like I was telling you earlier, Chris, see, this isn't going to stop until women, like, we can do all the marriage strikes, we can do all the MGTOW, we can have the marriage rate drop to zero.
Hmm.
The laws will not change until good women stand up and say, no, we have to change this. This is unfair. But they will never do it because they're happy with how it benefits them. And
Yeah,
all they'll do to justify it is say, well, I'm not like that. I would never do it.
the
And
no
that's how
fault
they,
syndrome,
yeah, and that's how they go. That's how they justify the travesty that goes on day after day.
day after
Well,
day. And here's another point to that. Yeah, I don't believe even the system would change then because I mean, like I stated about the woman in Quebec who's now, on the edge of losing her kids because she won't get them vaccinated or fucking mask them up, right? Where the fuck were you 40 years ago when we were getting that done to us? Oh, right, you were benefiting.
Yeah,
Um, the other thing is this system won't change until these people are afraid of for their lives. When social workers have to go to work dressed in fucking bulletproof armor top to bottom, right? When judges have to do the same thing to go to their fucking hearings or go home, then they might think that maybe, just maybe, the money ain't worth it. You know what I mean? Juice ain't worth the squeeze. You're right. MGTOW isn't going to change a fucking thing. The fathers' rights movement isn't going to change a fucking thing because they're
well,
playing by their rules.
of course. But look at the MRAs right now. Like,
Yeah,
how many laws has Paul Elam changed?
not a
Zero.
goddamn one.
Zero. And that
Yeah,
woman in Canada that's going to lose her kid, like you said, now she's crying because they're coming for the women.
Yeah.
You know, where were you when they were coming for the men? So
No,
sorry, no sympathy.
no, none whatsoever. You sat back with your fucking cocktails and margaritas and fucking having your hot girl summer when they
That
came for us.
exactly.
And it's just like what Frank stated on that poem that he read. First, they came for this group, and I wasn't a part of it, so I didn't care. Then they came for the next group, didn't care, wasn't a part of it. But then they came for me, and no one cared.
And there was no one left to care. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no one left to care.
Yeah, as they're struggling now more and more to try and get the money from men because men are going their own way and they're being depleted as well with being, finessed, and there's not much, where it's sad to think it, but our numbers are dwindling now or whatever. As a resource of financial support, it's being withdrawn. So
Yes. Well, as you're saying, Billy, like if you look at like colleges and stuff, 70% women, 68% women.
So
The amount available is just gone.
Yeah. So where are they going to get the money? So now they're looking at the women. It's like, right, okay, women, we did want to use you to get to the men, but if the men are gone or they're not accessible or whatever reason, well, we're going to have to come get the money from you yourselves, sort of thing. And now the women are beginning to feel it.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, you could see that in the student loan debt. You could see that in the freaking. Just look at how many freaking what's the old saying? The going gets tough. The tough get going on their back. Look at all. I mean, it's everything. All the women that lost their job from retail, from the poof.
Yeah, and
every sector is being affected.
They're more in a tighter bind with the government because obviously they're more dependent on the government as well. Like if women were at a time, women had it best of both ways. They could get money from the man as well as the government, so they're like double dipping. But now men are sort of separating. Women are reliant on the government, and the government's reliant on the women.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got kind of like a tighter bind there. And well, I mean, it's kind of like freedom for the guys, but it shows that the government and the women are not just in cahoots, but it's a deadly sort of relationship to be having.
Well, it's not even freedom because they're eventually what they'll do is that a bachelor tax is coming down the pike. They're going to raise taxes because.
Well, and that's to fall into what Tom is saying here. Yes, this does play a little bit of an effect, but all they have to do is jack up the prices and taxes on things that we do have to interact with.
Yes,
and it might as well be a bachelor tax, right? So yes, it does help. It does help bring awareness to the situation at hand, and more people now are getting on panels saying, you know what? Yes, I would like to get married, but until the fucking laws change to favor both parties, no, I'm out. It's not that we aren't willing participants. It's just that we can't risk it. It's not, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. And yeah, I mean, I've seen a panel today where it was a British gentleman that went on to one of the BBC shows, the morning shows, and he was the one who stated, like, look, the only reason men are living longer than women, or the only reason men don't live as long as women, is because they want to die just living with you women. You know what I mean? He stated that to one of the reporters.
I always thought that statistic was very suspect because they include widows and divorced men into the never married men as one lump, single men, as all single men. I would love to see a study between like widows, divorced, and just men who are never married who would live longer. That's what I really want to see a study of, because I don't believe that stat for a second.
I don't believe it either, to be honest with you, but I don't know if I can play their clips. I'm going to play these clips, guys, and if I get booted off, I get booted off, but I don't fucking care. I honestly don't care. Take the statement that if you do get to watch this, take the statement that I have posted down in the description of the stream, Take that to heart, because that's exactly what we need to see happen. But I'm going to share the news report a little later on. But today, what was this? The Tribe of Men. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that channel, right? Tribe of Men.
Oh, that's that guy and girl.
Yeah, they actually played a clip of this gentleman on one of the BBC's channels, one of the morning shows, right? And Billy, I'm sure you're going to recognize it as soon as you see it. A lot of us probably will, but I'm going to play a little bit of it, see if we get away with it. And what he's saying is exactly right on the fucking money. Right on the money. You know what I mean? This clip here, just let me get set up, and I'll start playing for a little bit, and nothing here is a lie. And this gentleman states that it's not that we don't want to participate in marriage. It's just too goddamn risky and too dead set against us as men. And our children are the fucking cattle. They're the ones they feed off. So I'll just play this here.
Actually, I think marriage is actually, the statistics of marriage have halved, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think marriage is irrelevant? Is this why why aren't men getting married?
Well, the bottom line is it's a raw deal. For men, it's a really raw deal. The benefits are heavily outweighed by the dangers and the risks. If you're a man and you divorce, the outcome usually favors women massively. You can end up losing your home, half of your pension, half of your wealth. You can end up not seeing your children. And studies have shown that men are more adversely mentally affected by divorce than women. So, and there's also a lot less support network in place.
You also say that if a woman gets pregnant for a career choice, and I think that you have used the words that women do get pregnant for career choices, that's what they want to do, that if you were the guy and that you didn't approve or you didn't okay that pregnancy, then you, I know you use a term, I didn't like it actually when I read it. It was just like financial abortion, I think you said. I didn't like that. But what that means is that you can say, right, okay, I had nothing to do with this. I didn't ask for it. You've surprised me with it. Therefore, I've got nothing to do with it. I won't support it.
Well, what I was really saying is I was mooting that as like a hypothetical point to illustrate the fact that when it comes to power, although the illusion is that men have all the power, when it comes to kind of personal relationships and relationships between the sexes, women have most of the power.
Well, that's true as well, but obviously babies are made by two people, so shouldn't men just use contraception?
Okay, here she goes with the fucking, oh, it's not just me, it's both of us, right? They want to share the consequence, right?
Yeah, it takes two argument, even though there's over 10 forms of birth control for women and just 2 for men, abstinence and condoms.
Absolutely. And this little fucking fairy that's on there with her, he uses the exact same shaming tactics, like who hurt you bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Right. And luckily this guy doesn't fucking fall for it. He just kind of puts him on the fucking spot, and yeah, it just gets much worse, man. It gets much worse.
Shouldn't men just use shouldn't they stop being pigs after just saying, well, it takes 2 people? As if she's never heard of sperm jackers, right?
Yeah, complete
As
denial.
if women haven't tried to purposely get pregnant to lock a man down. We've never heard any of those stories, right? It's, he should have used contraception. I've heard stories of women going in bathrooms, digging out the condom and getting themselves pregnant with it.
Yep.
And then when they said in the beginning, why are men putting off marriage or avoiding it? Well, yeah, it's a raw deal for men. 9.9 times out of 10, when it results in a divorce, it goes horrible for men.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen men become former shells of themselves.
I guess the question was, given all the risk factors that men face when it comes to a long-term relationship or a marriage, why would you risk having an unwanted pregnancy?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Because what do? Have abstinence in your relationship? Like the way she's saying it, well, it took a man. Well, obviously 2 people that are in a relationship have sex. You don't think accidents happen? And then if said accident happens and the woman's decision is, I'm going to keep the baby, this man is beholden financially and legally to the raw deal he was talking about.
No, I completely understand that it's a raw
Yeah.
deal. It's just hard to understand from our point of view because it's, for a woman, it is based.
Okay, I'm gonna take away some of her credit points. I've watched a lot of their content.
Yes.
Right here, right now, she is going to try to backtrack and try to play the victim card as women.
See,
And
but it's in situations like that Tom Likas and Kevin Samuels used to preach that if it does happen and you do, knock someone up, that you should never marry them and you should just pay your legal obligation. That's it. And just walk away. Even if you deal with the stigmatization of being called a deadbeat or non-involved. If you don't want to have kids and you're forced to do it, you should walk away. And you know what? They're right. You shouldn't be held financially in servitude.
Well, not only that, but when you have fathers, most good fathers want to be in their children's lives.
Oh, of
Most
course.
fathers in general do. But when you're going to exploit that as well, where the fuck do we win? Where do kids win? If my kid's mom right now, to this fucking second, wanted me out of my son's life, right? I literally have like 5 minutes to respond to where I actually get some kind of justice. Because once the police show up, once CVS shows up, it's too late. You're done. So I have between the time she fucking notifies me that CVS or the police are here to fucking escort me out of my child's life to take out all my vengeance on her immediately. That's my only fucking hope.
Unfortunately, in both scenarios, you'd be out of your son's life, though. That's the thing.
Well, and I understand that. But what would you rather have?
Well,
would you rather become a slave, or would you rather say, you know what? I knew what I was heading for, and I know I'm going down with the ship, so I might as well fucking poke as many holes in it as I can.
And it also goes the other way. The argument also goes the other way. Like what if the man wants to keep the child, but the woman wants to have the abortion? And it goes back to the start of the stream where that woman ended up murdering the son. It's like not an overdue abortion. What do you call it? Like a afterbirth abortion, a 6-year late abortion.
So murder.
Yeah. Murder. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean,
but
you know what?
Man has no say in the matter.
None whatsoever. No, and they're going to go into that. Like, he has no say whatsoever.
When it comes to getting conceived, like the female host was saying on that Good Morning show, it's like, it takes 2 to make a baby. So it's like, suddenly now you're moving the goalpost.
Well, now she's
and you want to sort of transfer some of that responsibility.
But Billy, that's what they do. They want it both ways. Like they want to be able to say, well, a kid in the womb isn't a baby. But if you shoot a pregnant woman, they want to be able to, they want to charge you for a double homicide. Well, you don't get it both ways. It's either a kid, it's either a baby, or it's not. It's either a human life or it's not.
Well, she wanted to transfer that blame. It's like, it wasn't just my fault that I got pregnant. He made half of that baby, so he's also to blame.
Yes, but we're not the ones that get pregnant. When they say, "Oh, I'm on birth control," or you don't have to worry, I don't have any fucking oopsie moments, and you believe them,
right?
How is that our fault?
And look what that woman tried to do. Who was that famous guy who?
Drake.
He put freaking, and good for him. He put hot sauce, habanero sauce into the used condom, so that if she tried it, she got a rather flaming hoo-ha.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. This chick has been a host with him since day one, right? And they've been at this now a few years. You're gonna watch this chick, who is generally on the side of fucking fathers and men around the world. You're gonna watch her backtrack here right now.
Oh, but by the way, quick question.
Go ahead.
Like, guys gonna get the snip, right?
Yeah.
And the female equivalent is getting your tubes tied.
Right. or an
Can
insert.
you untie the tubes?
Can you untie the tubes? Yes.
Yes.
So, right. So if women wanted to, then they could get their tubes tied, and when they felt like they were ready to finally have a baby, to be responsible, they could have a procedure to untie those tubes.
Yes. Yes.
But they're not
And
going to do it.
here's the thing: for a woman, as long as it's within an 8-year span, the untube tying doesn't really have any effect, right? Anything after that, and the rating for successful, what do they call it, reconception, is low. But for a man, if he gets his boys snipped and then pays to have them reconnected, the chances of it working is slim to none. Slim to none. Like you're very, very low odds. But let's watch this chick backtrack here right now. Just go and do it.
Basically in her hands, right?
Mhm.
Whether or not she carries the baby or aborts it, right?
Mhm.
So knowing that the power is in her hands, the question is, why would you risk having sex with somebody you're not ready to have a baby with, knowing that there are all this entire list of negative consequences to you?
Yeah, but it's impossible in today's society. Like, nobody does not have sex in a relationship. So it's like, besides abstaining, that risk exists for both people. On the point he made about financial abortion, I agree. It's if a woman decides to keep
on.
the baby, right, with
Mhm.
all the contraceptive choices we have, he should be allowed to sign a contract that says, since she decided and I didn't, then I want to withdraw financial obligation from the kid. I think if we had these rules in place, kids out of wedlock and quote unwanted pregnancies would diminish greatly,
Mhm.
because the incentive of extracting money from a man is there. So the consequences are damn near zero for women in terms of like, should I have this kid or should I not? Because not only will he be out of my life, I'll still get money from him and then get money from the government. So it won't be all that bad, as opposed to he's going to vanish out of my life and I don't get any of his financial assistance. I only rely on the piddly pennies the government gives me, right? Can't go after this kid for child support. I can't take him to child support to get his salary reassessed and get even more money, ask for more money down the future. If this guy starts making $250,000, $500,000 a year, he gets deep in his career in his 40s and 50s, you can keep asking for a ton more money, right? It's insane that we incentivize single motherhood. It blows my mind, because what's wrong with bringing two people to the table with abortion being legal in most states, right? Contraceptives heavily skewed to women's favor, right? Men don't have a little pill that we can take. It's just condoms. Everybody hates using condoms. Let's be real, men and women included, rather not use condoms. And when you're in a relationship for years, people don't no longer use condoms. You're not going to use condoms 10 years into your relationship, right? It's not feel like this is like telling teenagers practice abstinence. Don't have sex. You better not have sex. It's bad for you. They're not going to listen. You're going to tell two consenting adults that they should wear protection. That's your answer to this problem of unwanted pregnancy. It's moronic.
I think it's telling two consenting adults that their actions have consequences. Just like you
course.
said,
No
she
shit.
could easily be left with just the baby and he could walk out, right? That was her consequence for one deciding to have sex with a man that doesn't want to be with her and decides to walk out because she gets pregnant. And now she, if she's not economically stable herself, now her consequence is that she needs to rely on the government to take care of her child.
Right. I think if we gave both genders the ability to say yes or no,
Mhm.
then we would get a lot less of these out of wedlock.
I think ideally we would give men the ability to have contraception for themselves, right? So
Right.
if you engage in sex, you're not risking impregnating the woman.
If we had a magic pill, every guy would be on it all day, never miss a beat. But there's no.
You goddamn right we would.
Yeah, women hate the idea of men having contraceptive pill. But
That's why one of the reasons it isn't fucking developed yet.
She made a great point about the that she can keep going back to the court. And this is another reason why it's just the family court is just insidious, because the more money you make, the more money they can actually siphon from you. And
Absolutely.
and they can actually go by what you can make in the future, the potential income, and charge you financial support for that.
Yeah.
The whole system is insidious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unwanted contriver he's from India, right? Lives in India now again. He has come in and stated that they can actually base your future income on what you have to pay. So let's say you work at a company, but you're only in like the mailroom, right? Obviously, the top of the chain is CEO. They can say, well, in so much time, this guy can move up to CEO and he'll start making this amount of money. And that's what they can base your child support off.
I'm sure also, like, even if the man was to die at some point, they're still like, they can still extract the money from his assets or real estate or whatever, like post death.
They're trying to do that in New York.
Yeah. Well, here in Canada, they have gone after fucking grandparents for child support.
Yeah. I was going to make a quick point because at the start, when you started playing that back, she said, if you know women are in full control, then why have sex with them? So that's the point she's making.
Yeah.
Which is a bit telling of the female gender there. It's kind of like I'm going to abuse you. So if you're going to go ahead and have sex with me and get pregnant, or we're going to get pregnant, or I'm going to get pregnant, it's going to be your fault because you've been warned. Like you should know better than to have sex with me. So it's actually a good message to he should have turned around to her and said, you know what, you're right. I shouldn't have sex with, well, I'm not saying that them two are having sex, but I shouldn't be having sex with women because of that. Instead, he said, like, well, we can't help it because it's got that urge. And to further make that a problem is the art of seduction, which is essentially like grooming.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so here's the thing.
Ways, but I mean, a man could groom a woman, for example, like romanticize or whatever, seduce her, but he's going to have to be accountable for the consequences should he get her pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's another thing. If this is the case, and men shouldn't have sex with women, right? Then they should have no problem with MGTOW, because that's what it is. Most MGTOW that go monk, especially, they don't have sex with women, right? They don't get seduced by women. They don't get in relationships with women.
That's me.
There you go. But yet he's the enemy too.
Yeah.
So where's the fucking golden line here? Where's the line?
Like how dare you? I'm entitled to be able to abuse you.
Yeah. How dare you? Okay, Eric, if you have to jump out, buddy, sorry about that. I kind of figured it'd go a bit longer. You'd be able to stay. But
I'm sorry. I'm having a lot of issues here. My phone keeps jumping on and off. My Wi-Fi is messing up, or I don't know what's going on. But if I can come back, I will. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries, brother. No worries. But yeah, so I mean, as I was stating, no matter what you do, you're listed as a fucking bad guy, right? If you have a relationship with women, they want to divorce you, take you for everything you're worth, call you a deadbeat dad, no matter what the fucking case is, right? And extract whatever they can from you. If you don't have sex with them, or you decide to fucking go your own way, well, you're a toxic misogynist and you hate women, and why the fuck are you not marrying them? Where the fuck do you win?
And then we wonder why they don't like their own kids when they do have birth.
Yeah. Like I've stated, man, I have yet to be convinced that the majority, and I mean like 99 to 98% of women, all hate their children. Every fucking one of them. Do you know why I know this? Because 99 to 98% of women go to the family courts to end up just like this chick we're talking about tonight. They want to be in that position. They want that kind of power over their children to use against their fathers, right? And to do as much fucking damage as they possibly can. So when this woman took out the action of shooting this little boy 9 fucking times at close range with a 12-gauge shotgun to mutilate his body. That was her taking out her hatred that was just bottled up. She kept it under control, or the control was taken out of her hands for so long, and as soon as she got him back, she just let it all out on the kid. Why? Not to hurt the kid, just to fucking hurt everybody. Everybody. The father, the kid, the grandparents, didn't matter. Everyone. Whole community. They all hate. They're full of it. Full of fucking hate. Full of hate. Oh, okay, I'm spun up, Billy. I'm going to shut up for a minute if you want me to continue playing this here.
Go for it, man.
No money in that.
Uh-huh.
It's always a money thing, right? Why would you dare stop unwanted pregnancies? Do you know how much money the industry makes from all these households being born out of wedlock?
Mhm.
All these kids that need all those services because the single parent is at work or can't watch them. Daycare, nannies for babies,
and
everything.
but that's really what the frustrating part of the conversation is that the consequences are so dire, and they're not only for you but also for your children, right? Because you could easily say, I don't want this kid, whatever, I'm leaving. But this kid, that's an entire life, it's a life, right?
Yeah.
So this person didn't choose to be in this shitty situation where his dad decided he didn't want him and left, right? But it was the dad that decided to have sex with that woman and create this child, isn't it?
And here she goes with the backtrack.
But there are situations in which a man does everything right and he still gets screwed up.
I mean, look, if you're talking about sperm jacking, I'm totally with you, right? That's completely wrong. What argument could I make against that?
Right, of
But
course.
when you're talking about two people who know that sex equals baby, right? And they decide to have sex, unprotected sex, because you can't say there is no way that a man can protect himself. You said it yourself. Well, I don't want to use a condom. So you're making a choice not to use the contraception that is available. And now you're upset that you have the consequences of...
Well, it's like, only on him, right?
Yeah. It's like there's nothing stopping her saying, like, so a guy, they're getting intimate or whatever. The guy wants to do it raw. There's nothing stopping her saying, like, whoa, I want you to put a condom on.
Yeah, I'm not on the pill. Look, dude, we're not here to have kids. We're just here to have fun. Throw the rubber on and deal with it. Yeah,
the other bit that sort of aggravates me is how they like to talk virtuous about children. It's a life, isn't it? And it's beautiful, it's wonderful. I could be a mother and all this sort of stuff. But as soon as they get the kid, daycare, nanny, hand over to the state.
Hand over to the state. Yep. Fucking mutilate.
I don't want to be a stay-at-home mother.
Yeah. Inconvenience, right? Like the when Mark Dice interviewed those women and asked them what they thought about fucking aborting a kid up to like 6 years, right? Or I think it was a year, sorry, not 6 years. They were like, oh, well, I guess it all depends on the convenience to the mother. So now an inconvenience is enough that warrants fucking murder of children? That's all it takes? Who the fuck wants to reproduce with people like that? Oh, well, if you're an inconvenience to me personally in any way, I get to fucking either take you out or dispose of you. Nice going. Totally. Yeah, that shows your level of responsibility and self-awareness, and fucking shows your empathy level right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just despicable because it's sort of like, well, when can I slot in my abortion appointment? At my convenience. Like, oh, I'll do it in between doing the laundry and going down to the shopping mall. And while I'm there, oh yeah, okay, get the abortion done.
Yeah. Well, I want to speed through this part, so let's get this done a little bit faster because I still have the news report to play yet, guys, and I'm probably not going
to, because it's getting late in the morning here for me.
Yeah, so let's speed through
Being
this.
responsible for another person, should have thought of that before as well.
Well, right, but that's the whole deal with the entirety of a pregnancy happening. Why is it allowed for a woman to opt out and say, I'll terminate the baby? but a man can't make that decision also, right? So a woman once pregnant has all the power. I'm keeping him or I don't keep him. What if the man, see, there's reverses where she doesn't want to keep the kid and the man's like, please, I want to have this baby. I don't believe in abortions. Can we please, I'll be there for you. And she goes, no, I'm not having this kid, and gets an abortion anyway.
Right. Well, that's the sticky part,
Right.
because the baby's growing inside her body.
I don't know. I think the ideal world, both people have to sign off on the abortion for it to happen. I think so. Or if one party doesn't, like the man, then he needs to be financially not obligated to the kid anymore. So the woman needs to understand that once the pregnancy happens, they need to sit down, come together, and sign off on the paperwork to go forward, right? Give people the right to choose. We can get into the semantics of, but it takes two people, and then they had sex, and then they did this, but there's a huge swath of the population where they were accidents. So we just need, it's never bad to give people choice, to give them a choice. And I think it would lead to a lot less broken
I
homes.
hate to be pessimistic, but I think if you give men the right to choose, it would lead to a lot more broken homes.
Here
I'll
we
disagree
go.
on that.
Here we go. We're the problems. See that? We're the problems. Oh, Billy's gone. But yeah, this is just part of her backtracking.
Well, unfortunately, women have the lion's share of contraceptive choices, and once a woman is pregnant, of course, the man has no say, and yet the consequences for his life are lifelong and huge. They have a huge impact.
That's true, but if he'd taken precautions in the first place, he wouldn't have a baby. So don't men have to just use their brains rather than what's in their pants?
Absolutely. And look, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of reckless men and plenty of responsible women out there. And of course, not all women get pregnant as a career choice. That was a sample of a study that I was quoting. But, there are instances, like look at Liz Jones at the Daily Mail. She famously stole the sperm from her husband's condom. She violated his choice about fatherhood, and that could have changed his life forever. Have you been hurt?
Here we go.
No,
Shame
I'm
tactic.
not.
Have you been hurt?
What is it? What started this off? Is this a big revenge trip?
No, not at all. Look, this is just about me being a young man in the modern world. After 50 years of feminism, I am one of the products of that. And, I have 3 wonderful sisters who I love, and my mother, I have a great relationship with. My parents are still together. So my personal experience of marriage, is wonderful. But for me, as a young man entering into that, politically, it's just not viable.
So you would never get married?
No. Well, I would do if the laws changed. If I was protected in equal measure to, like perhaps the woman I'd marry, then I would consider it. But at the moment, let's be honest, marriage is a contract. It's a business deal. And I wouldn't enter into any contract without reading the terms and conditions and being aware of the risks.
I'm going to end that one there, guys. I did drop the link to that stream, or that conversation in its entirety, and I recommend you go watch it, because the last part of it is the guy is explaining, the types of men he's seen come in, top of the fucking world 1 minute, going through a divorce, bottom of the barrel the next. Men that have literally lost everything, jobs, the works, still on the line for these huge fucking child support payments or alimony payments. And, some have ended up taking their own lives, But before we go any further, I really want to play the news report from this, this absolute fucking travesty of a situation and this horrible woman's fucking deeds. Of course, they do, on a couple of these news reports, they have slipped in little fucking hints about fathers' rights movements and, fathers' rights when it comes to the family courts and how they failed, but it's very brief, and it almost does seem like they've tried to cut it out, but just left a little bit in a couple of them that I've watched. This is probably one of the better ones, so I'll play this through and then we'll open it up.
Tragically killed. He wants you to know his story and his smile. They identify him as 6-year-old Eli Hart. Orono police found his remains inside the trunk of a car during a traffic stop yesterday. Tonight, records show his mother, Lisa Thaler, is in custody. Adam Duxter spoke with the boy's father's fiance and shares why they say his death highlights a broken custody system.
Eli was a happy, loving 6-year-old boy. He did not deserve this.
Josie Josephson had only known Eli Hart for less than a year, but says the mark he left will last a lifetime.
He was just a really loving kid who was just happy to be around people who loved him. I don't think I ever saw him without a smile on his face. Very kind, very loving. He adored Tori.
Tori being Tori Hart, Josephson's fiance, and 6-year-old Eli's biological father, too distraught to talk today.
All he really was a dad that wanted to be in his son's life.
But for years, he wasn't. Court documents paint a picture of a custody struggle between him and Eli's biological mom, Julissa Thaler.
These are the comprehensive report from when Eli was first taken away and why.
Until August of last year, when Josephson says the two were granted access for unsupervised trips with Eli. From then, his visits to their home in Wisconsin were frequent on weekends and holiday breaks.
I always thought that Tori felt like he was missing a piece of him before we were able to reconnect with Eli. From that moment on, it was dad, 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 dad. I mean, and whatever piece was missing from Tori, he found.
Just weeks ago, Dakota County court documents show the custody battle ended, with Thaler once again awarded full custody of her son, despite documented concerns of housing stability and concerns for her mental health. And after news broke that police had found a young boy killed inside a car trunk near Mound Friday, Josephson says a police officer knocked on their door.
I asked the officer what happened, and he said that Eli had died, and his manner of death was homicide.
Orono police have not commented publicly on their investigation since Friday night or named suspects or the victim involved. But an online roster for Hennepin County Jail shows Thaler booked on murder charges Friday. Josephson says it never had to be this way.
And there were many adults involved in his life over the last few years that could have done something.
Adam Duxter, WCCO 4 News.
The West Tonka School District confirmed today that the boy attended Shirley Hills Primary School. The school district superintendent released a statement saying, in part, it is horrifying and difficult to process a tragedy of this magnitude, especially in our close-knit community. My thoughts and prayers go out to all those who are grieving this profound loss.
PokerStars.net presents Spin and Go. Fast, fun.
So that's the news report that I've had to watch now like 17 fucking times. And yeah, it's all thoughts and prayers, you know, travesty, tragedy. Can't believe this happened. Same old fucking song and dance. Think any fucking change will come out of it?
Another thing that I don't like what's going on in sort of society is the downplaying or the relevance of mental illness and history, like the backstory of history and things like that, the dynamics, as if like it has no, I mean, just because someone has a mental illness doesn't mean they're going to be a bad parent, but it should be taken into a bit more consideration how it's going to play out or what kind of impact it might have on the family.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're seeing is now mental illness is becoming more culturally accepted. So don't judge me. I have, don't judge. I'm a psychopath, but don't judge me, kind of thing. It's like, well, I don't know, you know, you might want to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, you just might want to, you know, maybe watch out for that crap. Just a bit. Either way, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if every type of organization and feminist movement out there came to back this fucking psychopath. And in one way or another, she will get to walk free or get to be, you know, out in public again in no time.
There's a term that I heard that was brought up in the Amber Heard case. There's a new one to me, like, well, plenty of terms are new to me, but this one in particular anyway was the idea of a imperfect victim. I'm not sure how they worded it exactly, like no victim is perfect or something like that, meaning that it's all right for so-called victims to display bad behaviors and traits of mental disorders or problems, but it's not all right for people that are being accused of it.
No.
So in this world of victimhood, then they're basically saying it's acceptable for people who identify with as being a victim, for them to be abusive or toxic in whatever way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's a cop-out card. They get to walk the fuck out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like stepping stones.
Yep.
So a woman, if a woman has awareness of how to play the game, she'll realize, right, if I want money, if I want security, if I want control, resources, assets, and everything, if I want it all, basically, then what I need to do is I need to find a man. Then the next step will be to get pregnant by that man, and then call myself a victim, and then I can get more, and then I can do this, and then I could be abusive because I'm identified as a victim,
Yep.
and then I can get away with basically murder.
Which is what we've seen happen time and time again.
The last laugh and you know, be on top of the world.
Look at the one that really made kind of like, you know, I guess what do they call it? It wasn't trending, but it went viral. Was the woman that drove down to the ocean in her minivan, right, with 5 or 6 kids in the fucking thing, trying to drown them all. Never spent a day in fucking jail, guys. Not one day. Oh, she has mental health issues because she's having problems at home. What the fuck does that have to do with the kids? Here, let me give a statement to anyone that's watching this with mental health issues, and your idea is to murder your children and then possibly yourself. Start with yourself. Okay? Start there. If you're going to murder your children and then yourself, just do it in reverse and murder yourself first. Okay? And trust me, it'll be all good. We will say our goodbyes and part ways, and you can go to fucking heaven or hell, whatever you believe in, and it's all good. Don't start with the kids. Start with yourself. Right there. End of fucking problems. Your kids have done nothing. They didn't ask to be born. They weren't fucking, forcing you to conceive them. You made them on your own, but they are still their own individual little lives, okay? You might have fucked up your day, but don't fuck up theirs. So, if the plan is to... Sorry, go ahead, Billy.
And sorry to cut you off there. Unfortunately, we all know they're cowardly.
Yeah.
So they're not going to do.
I'm angry. I'm not going to lie, man. I'm angry. This fucking infuriates me.
I think a lot of us here tonight are frustrated, angry, outraged, disgusted. It's like a shock as well. It's unbelievable. So it's hard to sort of fathom how people can be like this. But if we step back, we can kind of break it down and work out. I mean, it's not going to make it any more pleasant or palatable. It just iterates how disgusting and how problematic the situation is, and how in some ways, not to cheapen it, but when you break it all down to a kind of cop out of an answer, which is fundamentally they just want to feel better about themselves. It's sort of like, this is pathetic. So you're willing to execute your own children, ruin the lives of those involved, blemish society and all these other kind of abusive and abuse the system and drain the system because you're selfish, cowardly, and petty.
Yeah.
Just because you want to basically feel better, because you feel insignificant. I mean, you can add in a few things like you have anxieties because you don't have control of your life, but all of this sort of stuff comes back to that you want to feel better. You want to have a sense of security. You want to feel stable and comfortable. Again, all of that, even like the money aspect of it. Why do you want money? Because fundamentally it makes you feel better. So it all just comes back to a selfish need to feel better about themselves. And unfortunately, despite all of their actions they take, it doesn't make them feel any better. They might think it does in the moment, but no, it doesn't.
No. And society does, we care about people's well-being for the most part. The individual, myself, you, the people in the chat, we care about each other's well-being, both mentally and physically. It's not that I want people to fucking kill themselves. That's not the thing. But if you're coming down with a decision where like even the woman you described who stabbed her child to death and then stabbed herself, what was the problem with just starting with yourself? You know what I mean? We will understand. We don't
Yeah.
condone your suicide, but we understand, right? Nobody wants to see you dead for the fact that you're depressed or you're going through something. But the where you don't get a fucking pass is when you start taking out your children. You know what? If I wanted to go on a fucking shooting rampage tomorrow, right? I would. But guess what? I'm not starting with my kid. I'm going to start with the people on a list. And you know what? They'll let them fucking take me out. Right? What do they call it? Suicide by cop? Yeah. But I'm going to get a few of the bad people with me. I'm not going to take the most innocent fucking person I know because they're not accountable for anything they've done because the only reason they're here is because of me and another person, right? I'm not taking it out on them first. No, 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 no. No, no. No, sorry. That fucking just you're past the point of fucking of insane. And really when you start with your children, there's no forgiveness. Actually, you know what? If you start with any kid, even if they're not yours, and I've heard stories of that, people, murdering children because fucking they found out they weren't theirs. That's
Yeah,
not
I mean,
okay.
it can start off with like animal abuse, So it's a, it sounds a bit stupid, but it's like they're sort of gradually they're working their way up.
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on the circumstances, but you like with this 28-year-old woman in the news article. I don't know what her history is, but it would be interesting to find out whether or not there was any animal abuse in that upbringing at all.
Well, from the one news report, she was a very abusive woman. Like she's been to jail a few times for things she's done to other people. Her
Well,
rap sheet is long and
right.
lengthy.
Well,
So
it'd be good to know if there was if they actually divulge that information a bit more. So because to say someone abuse, it's such a broad category.
yeah, but Billy, it doesn't wash away the sin of killing a 6-year-old little boy. I
No,
do
definitely
not.
not.
I don't care what you've been through, man. Don't
No,
care.
but I suppose I bring up if anything, if authorities or those involved with such a individual are aware of the plethora of background information, then they can make it's like a red flag, I suppose.
They had lots of red flags on her.
Well, that's
Lots.
the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but because it was a woman, right? Like I said, vagina rules.
Leave all women and all
Yeah,
that kind of
and as long as she gets the child, the state benefits, the system benefits, right? As long as she has the child, this is the end results in a lot of cases. These little children are beaten, abused, starved, mutilated, fucking turned into prostitutes. It does not matter. The list is endless.
By the
You
way,
know what I mean?
over here in the UK, they're going to be issuing out sentences to people who are fraudulent with their claims, like benefit claims. So they're beginning to clamp down on what do you call it when you're making claims when you're not really entitled to them.
Falsifying documents or falsifying services.
Yeah. But it kind of goes in line with what you'd expect. Like all these countries are now in debt and money is now an issue and a problem. So the government is going to have to start clamping down on some of these benefit people.
Yeah. They don't have a choice. But you know what? That's not that's not going to end this.
No,
it's not going to end this. But Billy, I know you're tired, buddy, and Dax is coming up with a stream here at 7. So I kind of want to wrap this up.
Okay.
It's not that I can't go on fucking calling these demons literal demons. I mean, Johnny, I think, yeah, Johnny, you said it right. They are absolutely demons. Or sorry, it was JR. They are demons.
I don't know. I think it's worse than demons and evil in a way, because evil, like the bad, philosophically speaking here, serves a purpose. You know, you can't have the good without the bad kind of thing. So as much as we might not like it, you know, like light and dark kind of thing, it's kind of essential to have that dark element as part of it. But what these individuals are showing, I mean, it's like taking it to a different level. There's been evil, there's been a cunt, part of my language, but then there's being this selfish, just, I don't know, yeah, like I said, it takes it to a different level of disparity and utter disgust. I don't think you can get any lower, basically.
No, none. Well, with that said, Billy and Erica, you know, I want to thank you guys for coming on, and everybody that came in. Like I said,
Thank you for this discussion, and Eric as well. He was here earlier.
This is one that had to be said. And I'm going to leave you guys here with the pictures for the last little bit. I do have the GoFundMe for the funeral services, which have topped over $42,000 now, which is, you know, fantastic. It's a sad fucking fantastic. But if you guys want to donate, the link is actually pinned at the top here. And yeah, I'm going to read the quote out to you that I put in the bottom of the description here today. And the GoFundMe link to the page, anyway, is in the description as well. And if you haven't read it, I'll read it to you here now. In the name of all that is holy and good on this world and in heaven, there is no act too extreme or violent against this mob of demons that we can say is 100% not justified. So with that, this needs to come to an end. This system that has failed this little boy, not only failed him, but as Eric stated, murdered this child. That system has 100% straight up murdered that child and every other one that's been put into that situation. As human beings, these are the children that we're supposed to protect more, or most of all. We can forgive each other from walking away from an adult in need to save our own lives. We're not supposed to be able to walk away from saving children's lives. So whatever you need to do, or whatever actions you think you should take against this system to bring it down piece by piece, if you have to, is 100% okay. And whatever God you believe in, if it's a just God or not, will forgive you. In fact, to murder an infidel is not evil. It's, you know, the path to heaven thing. I'm not big on religion, guys. But, yeah, invoke whatever you need to. Because this was a true crime against humanity. And every one of those crimes that have compiled up to this day is just another act that we have allowed to just slip under the rug. We talk about it for a little bit, and then it goes away until it happens again. So, yeah, with that, I'm hoping to see you guys all over at Dax Stream. And Billy, Eric, thank you again. Everyone in the chat, thank you for coming. Any last words, Billy?
Thank you, Chris and Eric and gentlemen who's been paying attention. Sorry, it's a hard topic, isn't it? But have a good evening. Take care. And take care of your loved ones.
Amen. Good night, guys.